Good morning, third grade friends. Today is Thursday, December 3rd, and we are ready to start our reading block. We are talking about the next part of our weekly story stuff. We're looking at the word work section. That's where we talk about phonics and spelling. And our skill this week is called contractions. After this, you have your checklist of things to do, your Google Meet activity, your Google Classroom activity, your Lexia time, and if you have time, silent reading for fun, and your choice board. So a contraction is when two words are put together to make a new word. Now, contractions, a lot of third graders confuse them with compound words. Compound words when we take two words that are words by themselves and smoosh them to make a new word, like football or butterfly or cupcake. That's when I take two words that are words by themselves and I smoosh them together to make a new word. When I have contractions, I take two words that go together and we use a tool called an apostrophe to make one word that's easier to say. Like on the screen, we can make isn't to mean is not. Like he is not at school today. There's nothing wrong with saying he is not at school today, but the way that we speak, in our language, we shorten words sometimes. So it's okay to also say he isn't at school today. The extra noise you hear is me typing in the chat box these sentences that we're talking about so you can see what it looks like. Contractions use a tool called an apostrophe. An apostrophe is this teeny little mark that kind of hangs up in the air. An apostrophe is a punctuation mark. We use them for contractions to replace the missing words. Is not is on the screen again. We take out the O from not and smoosh it to say isn't. Another example is he will, like he will buy a game. If I use the apostrophe correctly, I can say he'll buy a game. An apostrophe can also go in a possessive noun. That's the other time we use an apostrophe. We're not going to talk about that today, but that's when we talk about ownership, like Betty's sandwich or Tommy's fish. So those are the two times that we use this punctuation mark called an apostrophe. An apostrophe looks like a comma that's hanging out in the air. You know how when we put commas on the bottom when we're writing sentences, that reminds us to take a pause? Well, this is kind of like reminding us to do the same. It's just hanging out in the air. All right, so I'm going to make some noise on my computer for a minute, and we're going to watch the brain pop about contractions. They're going to remind us how to use apostrophes, and they're going to use some examples of how to know when to use an apostrophe and when it's important to use a contraction. So stay out of the chat box until we're finished. If you have a question or if you have a computer problem, you can put that in the chat box and I'll check on you. If the video starts to lag, it'll be available after our meets. Sorry, hang on. Hang on 1 second. My video is muted. There we go. There we go. Oh my goodness, third grade. I'm so sorry. Now I think we're good.
Moby, didn't you read the sign? Please don't touch. That's a contraction. A contraction is a word formed by combining two or more words, leaving out sounds or letters. We use contractions all the time when we speak. They're faster and easier to say. How do you form a contraction? The word don't is a contraction for do not. First combine do not and take out the O. Then you add an apostrophe, which is a kind of punctuation mark. The apostrophe in a contraction tells you where the missing letters or sounds are. So do not becomes don't. You can do the same things to change could not to couldn't, is not to isn't, did not to didn't, and have not to haven't. But the contraction for will not doesn't follow the pattern. Its contraction is won't. As in, I won't tell anyone you touch the blocks. What are contractions with am, are, and is? It sure is cold outside. I am drinking hot cocoa. You can change I am to a contraction by combining the words, dropping the A, and adding an apostrophe. I'm drinking hot cocoa. You are eating warm soup. You can turn you are into a contraction. You're eating warm soup. Mia is making tea. This sentence can change to Mia's making tea. Hey, let's play in the snow. What are contractions that use have, has, and had? You have made one snowball. You can turn you have into a contraction. Combine the words, drop the letters HA, and add an apostrophe to form you've. You've made one snowball. Hey. You should have ducked. You can change should have into a contraction. You should have ducked. You had better watch out. You had can form the contraction you'd. You'd better watch out. Hey, who threw that? Uh-oh. Mia has made a bunch of snowballs. You can turn Mia has into a contraction. Mia's made a bunch of snowballs. Some contractions look the same. Well, the contractions in these two sentences look similar, but they mean different things. She's on the phone. When you read a contraction, try breaking it apart. It doesn't make sense to say, she has on the phone. She is on the phone. There are a lot of blocks to set back up. Don't worry, Moby. You will do it in a snap. I can change you will to a contraction. You'll do it in a snap. Oops, it's important to proofread and make sure you put the apostrophe in the right place. Good job, Moby. Oh, I think you forgot one. I'd like to go home now.
No, poor Moby. So contractions are when you take two words and you kind of smoosh them together using an apostrophe to make it quicker and easier to say. They reminded you in the video to make sure that the apostrophe goes in the right spot because it replaces the letters that are missing, and to go back and to read your word and your sentence to make sure that it makes sense. And now it's going to be your turn to show off what you know about contractions. Today's activity is in the Google Classroom. It's listed under Thursday, 12:3 for reading because that's where we're at today. And it's about contractions. It looks like this. You have a picture of a contraction on top. They put the two words together, so now it says I can't. Some of your questions look like this. What contraction is formed when you combine these two words? My words are not. Does are not become ain't, aren't, isn't, or can't? I want you to write the contraction in the chat box. Are not. What does it become? Ain't, aren't, isn't, or can't? Which of these four choices is the correct contraction for are not? Put that in the chat box. Someone says ain't. Someone says aren't. What are some other thoughts? What contraction does are not become? Your first clue is to look at your first word, and our first word is are. Our first word does not change, so I need to look at my answer choices and find which one has the word are in it. Ain't doesn't have the word are. Aren't has the word are, so it could be that guy. Isn't doesn't have the word are, and can't doesn't have the word are. So the one that has are is aren't, A-R-E, smoosh it, N''T becomes the word aren't. So you're going to click on this word, click in the white, and scroll down. I am. What contraction is formed when you have I am? Is it I'm, I'll, I've, or we're? I am. To the chat box, please. Yeah, you guys know this one. This one was a lot easier for you. I need to look for the I, and the first three choices, I'm, I'll, and I've, all have I in them. We're does not, so I can mark it out. And then I have to look for the am. Well, I know there's an apostrophe involved, and my word's going to end in M. So I've got I've, that can't be it. I'll, that can't be it. It's got to be I'm. Capital I, look in the chat box. Capital I, apostrophe in the air, M. I'm. Good job. So you'll click I'm, and you'll click in the box, and you'll move on. You have some questions that look like this. And it's going to say what two words were used to make this contraction. So this word is she's. Your choices are he is, I am, we are, or she is. Which one of these is she's? What two words make she's? I'm watching the chat box, and the friends that are responding are doing a good job. If you haven't yet, put your answer in. She's. So I'm looking for she, and the only choice that has she is she is. Awesome. So click on that, click in the white space. You have, I think, 10 questions, 20 questions, and then press submit when you're finished. So that's that today. And that's the end of the beginning. Nope, we will and she's, they don't work together. Your weekly fluency passage is called One Birthday for All. It's about family traditions. There's 5 paragraphs about Beth King and her birthday. If you have a Mr. Bill meet today, make sure you log on to read. If you don't, this is in the classwork for you to practice. This is a check mark on your Google Meet time. We're done. I'm going to press stop in just a minute. You're going to go to Google Classroom first and do today's activity, and then you're logging into Lexia. If you have any time left over, you'll be working on silent reading and working on some reading activities. Our first meets are Angel at 9:15, Caden at 9:30, and Jed at 9:45. Then we take a break for math. I'm going to keep Yasmin, Taylor, Azaria, Caden, and Melanie on the call so we can look at reading real quick. And the rest of you all are working on your checklist. I'm going to check the chat box for questions and answers. I'm going to stop recording, and I'll see you at 10 o'clock for math.